And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael Delon, and today I'm talking with Mike Brevik. Mike, thank you for being my guest on Experts Speak today.
Yeah, hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. It's going to be a great conversation. Mike is the founder and owner of CyberDogs Marketing, and they help business owners do a lot of things. But one of the things, and what we're going to dive into, is the importance of building an extraordinary brand for your business and how that's going to help you in so many ways. And so, as we get into that and dive off the deep end into the pool, uh, Mike, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
I've always kind of been involved in marketing from different levels, from being a cartoonist, illustrator, graphic designer, web designer, things like that. And over the course of time, I just started to kind of develop an affinity and a passion for branding and kind of, kind of realizing the nuances of it and kind of looking at kind of the neglect that's out there from a branding perspective. And I think branding's a little bit of a buzzword right now because people are becoming more aware and they're
Yeah.
kind of giving it a little bit of acknowledgement. But over the course of the last, 20 some years of my career, there was a time not that long ago where, I mean, it was literally completely ignored. And it just kind of floated along. It kind of lived in the process, but nobody really gave it the attention it deserves. And now that people are recognizing it, I think it's important. So that's kind of why we started CyberDogs and how kind of we kind of focus on that as part of our delivery mechanism. So
That's awesome, man. I love the journey. I love the cartoonist aspect of it. That you can use cartoons in marketing and do so many fun things that business owners just, well, that's not professional. It's like, oh, give me a break. It's amazing because people resonate because we all grew up on cartoons and comics.
yep.
That's not what we're talking about. That's a whole nother podcast, probably. Um, but brand is I want to kind of unpack it a little bit, but as you were just talking about that, I think when I think brand and logos and all of that, it's more than just a design. It really should embody what I call the identity of that business, so that when I see your logo, it speaks to me, not just your name, but what all of that means. What are you bringing to the table that's encompassed in that? Is that fair? Is that on track?
I think it's foundational.
Yeah.
I think the part that people don't realize, and this is kind of how we approach it, and spoiler alert, this is going to get a little woo-woo on you, but branding is everything from a look, a feel, it's a smell, it's all of those things together that give you this experience and this idea of why it is you love that brand or why you feel loyal to it, or it's all encompassing of all these things. And you already mentioned it, but I think a lot of people, when they think they understand branding, they break it down to just that icon, that logo, and they're like, oh, so the logo. And it's like the logo is part of the brand. I mean, it's an important part of the brand, but it's only one segment of it. So like when I look at brands like, Nike, Under Armour, even what we're trying to do with our own brand, we're talking about the look, the feel, the passion, the like all the parts that go into it. So like even imagine walking into an Apple store, like
Yes.
there's a feeling and a crisp nature of it that when you walk in there, like where you're at. It's bright white, it's crisp, it's clean, it's got a very tight package on all their products. Not only do their products give you a certain kind of a feel and experience, but just walking in their environment does. And if you look at their commercials and if you look at their brand documents, if you look at anything online, their social medias, it is a very consistent experience from end to end. And how would you describe that essentially? Like
Yeah.
there is a cleanliness, a crispness, a feeling, and over time you experience this, and then all of a sudden you develop an expectation and almost like a subtle or a subliminal kind of you can kind of forecast what that looks like because now you're inside that brand. You understand what that brand looks like, feels like. And all of that working together, if done right, that's branding. And I think there's different aspects of that that can take the lead at certain times, depending on what your focus is and where you're at in the process. But if you're looking for an all-encompassing, like, well, what's the difference between a logo and a brand? The logo is just the logo.
Yeah.
The brand is everything that comes with it. So like I mentioned, Nike and Under Armour and whatnot, that it drills right down to the feeling and quality of the products they produce, all the
Yes.
way to, everything else I just mentioned.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, and those are iconic ones that we think about. And, I was thinking Chick-fil-A, their logo with the chicken thing, or Disney, they all have that, but they're all great logos, but it
Yeah.
goes so much deeper than that, right? And it's as if when I see that logo or that name, it transfers to me that I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be taken care of. It's reliable. It's whatever. It's fun. It's memorable. It depends on what company we're talking about. And they've worked long and hard on that. But before they worked long and hard on it, they took some time to think, and they partnered with people like you who you. I love guys like you because you think graphically. You think in a different way. And a lot of entrepreneurs are. I mean, we're idea people, but sometimes we just get down to the brass tacks and just let's go. And a lot of times that doesn't play out in how do I create a brand? Well, that's not my thing. I'm a word guy personally, right? I'm great at massaging words and getting messages, but I always bring graphic designers in and things say, can you take that message and can you do something with it? And I'm always blown away by how you guys think about it. Not just again, not just logo, but in embodying. And so as a business owners, let's talk about small business owners. How do you work with them to help them understand how to take that next step in this whole process, because it's bigger than a logo.
You know, I do work with business owners a lot in that sense. And to me, no offense to anybody, but to me, it's like common sense because we all understand this idea that first impressions matter, right? Like
Mm,
we all understand that first impressions matter, and that when you get an opportunity to speak to a large group of people or speak to the masses, you're going to make sure that, oh man, I got to make sure my suit's ready, or
yeah,
my PowerPoint presentation's on point, or you're gonna give it the attention it deserves, and that makes sense. I'm with you. However, most entrepreneurs, when they start a business, they're thinking about budget, and they're thinking about, where can I cut a corner? Where
yeah,
can I shave something off here that really doesn't make that much difference anyway? And they kind of degrade a lot of things, but they degrade this idea of brand.
yeah.
And whenever I'm given the opportunity to work with an entrepreneur, I'm like, dude, now is the time
I'm
to
with you.
invest in your brand and to put it out there stronger than maybe ever in the process, because this is your first impression window. This is the hype wheel. This is when everybody's going to start liking your page and saying, "Hey, did you hear so and so started a business?" Now is the time to throw gas on this whole thing. And yes, be smart about it. Allocate your budget accordingly, but do not backburner this as something that doesn't matter or something that you can address later, because you will miss that beautiful hype window that you have at the
That's right.
beginning of the process. And most people, they just, and I think part of it might be because brand is, in all reality, kind of this new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's not been a focus for that long,
Yeah,
but I also think it's something that, because they don't fully understand it, it's easy to backburner it.
yeah,
And like I would go as far as even, not only logo, brand, look, feel, website, how you position yourself, all of it, but even to the business cards you print, to
hundred percent.
the hats that you buy. If you buy a really cheap hat that nobody's going to wear, and you bought it because who cares, it's just a hat,
Yeah,
that who cares, it's just a hat vibe, that's what's going into your brand.
that's right.
So that hat needs to be quality. It needs to be representative of your brand and where you believe you're at in the process. It needs, like, all those little details add up to a very large subliminal presentation. And most people, they're not going to sit down and do the math and break it down in that way, but subliminally over time, they're going to go, oh man, that guy, it's really got a nice product there, nice brand, nice company.
Yeah.
You get them over time.
Well, you do, and what you're talking about, I communicate it by saying if you go to the beach and you see the waves coming into the ocean, everybody loves the waves. but it's not the waves that are going to hurt you. It's the current underneath the waves that kill you. You're talking about current. You're talking about emotion. I feel better about this company than that company. I can't put words to it necessarily. I can't, but I feel something. And it's all of that put together that when you launch a company or you're growing a company, I was just thinking different social media company, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. When they launch, they always have a logo.
Mhm.
And now that logo is everywhere. And we just look and say, oh, that's a TikTok, or that's the Instagram, or that's the, and as soon as I see that logo, I know everything about that company because they've done a really good job of branding it. And small business owners can do the same thing.
Yep.
And it's a thinking process of working with somebody like Mike and his team to go, here's who we are as a company. Here's what we're trying to do. And you're right. When you start a company, if you can have a distinct logo brand, it will do more for your business than probably anything. But business owners don't think about that. They're wanting to do selling. Um, how do you work with is when you work with somebody? So because I know, good golly, there got to be business owners listening to this right now going, I haven't done that. Is it a short term, like let's get this thing done in a month? Is it a 6 month thing? Is it a year? Do you work with companies over time? Do people, I mean, how does somebody who hasn't done this, what's the process even look like?
It kind of goes in phases, and we have, I would say 50% of our client set is people that we work with month over month, and we branding and just business is a journey. So we are with them throughout that whole journey and kind of help them, pull the right levers and push the right buttons along the way. But we do have clients that come in just for a brand engagement or a website engagement, and that's fine too. But then when they walk away or they move on, it's on them to make sure that these dots remain connected and they continue to
Right.
do that, because that's where usually the problem comes in is, as business owners, we take on too many hats and we start to prioritize. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the thing you least understand, that's what's going to go to the back of the pile.
Right.
And to your point, branding is something that, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but branding is something that I think you have to invest in it. You have to
Uh,
invest early, and you have to make sure you invest along the way, because that brand and the power of that brand is basically raising and building the subfloor foundation of your business, so that when times don't go the way you think they should, or you have your peaks and valleys, your downtimes are only going to go so low because your basement floor is pretty strong because of your brand. Your
right.
brand will sustain you through tough times and build loyalty. And it's really important that people understand that branding does matter. Don't disregard it as something that
Yeah.
can be ignored, because when you need it, you're going to be really thankful that you spent the time and invested on it. And, I would challenge business owners too to be serious about it and ask themselves a tough question is, do you love your own brand? Because if you don't, why should anybody else?
That's right. That's right. And are you proud of it? So it's funny. I use a phrase. Um, Most business owners market like, and they show up looking like a coffee bean.
Hmm.
And coffee, I drink coffee all day, but if you pour coffee beans on your table, they all look the same and they smell the same, right?
Yep.
And that's what business owners are doing. And I say that's dumb. So you
Yep.
need a really good message. You need a really good brand. You need something that's going to identify you, and your audience will resonate with and go, and one of the best examples I really think is going back to Apple. They've branded themselves so well. I mean, it's like there's Apple and there's everybody else.
Hmm.
And if you're, and I was on a call yesterday with a guy who's got a PC, and I said, I'm so sorry, but in the PC world, I mean, who leads the PC world? Well, I have no idea, because there are like 100 PC manufacturers out there.
Right.
There's one Apple, and I think that is probably one of the best case studies of branding. It's not just the logo; it's everything that you talk about. When I walk in the store, when I unpackage it, when I talk with their people, everything is just spot on. That didn't happen by accident.
No, and if you've bought Apple products, like the journey of the Apple store and their branding, and like that's one experience and it's fantastic. Then buy an Apple product and see how it comes packaged, the tightness, the quality of the box, it's impressive, and most people would say is, "Man, what a waste. Like, why can't they just stuff it in like, what a waste." And it's like, I bet that packaging, just the overall work that went into that presentation has paid for itself a million times over because you just leveled up
Yeah.
when you open that box from Apple because it is so put together, and just to add on one thing you said, th somewhere along the line, people are putting themselves in these processes. So
Yes.
that's the big thing about branding too, is that to be a to step into the white noise and try to match your competition or be like them,
Yeah.
like, I get it as a reference point, but you wanna be you, you wanna be unique, you wanna be authentic, you wanna pull yourself into that brand so that A, you stand out, but B, you're gonna love it more if you know you're in it.
Yeah.
So, you'd mentioned it earlier as well, but think about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is fantastic from a product perspective, a brand perspective, how they market and build, their restaurants in certain, parts of the country, like, they're very well thought out, very well done. One of the things that is inherent in that brand that comes from a very personal place is the fact that they're not open on Sundays.
Yes.
Now, most people are offended and annoyed because if they want Chick-fil-A on a Sunday, like, that's ridiculous.
That's right.
However, it is also a very cool storytelling, culture, core value piece that
Yes.
they've injected into their brand that makes them special,
That's right.
and people don't forget that.
That's right. Yeah, and the thing is, small business owners can do the exact same thing when they work with somebody like you, because I'm convinced, Mike, most small business owners just they don't have the skill set to do great branding. They're amazing at legal documents or financial planning or plumbing or whatever it is. Great, do that. But when it comes to your brand and really presenting yourself, you really need to partner with somebody like Mike because they just understand how to think differently and how to bring to bear. And when you think about branding, and you mentioned it earlier, is so I go out to a networking event, right? I hand somebody my business card, brand opportunity. They go to my website, brand opportunity. Then they hit my LinkedIn, brand opportunity. Is there consistency there?
Mhm.
Because that consistency is that current underneath the waves that you were talking about. So you can help business owners create that whole thing because that's really what we're talking about in branding. It's not a logo or a business card. It's so much deeper and wider. Is that fair?
It is fair, and it's actually and again, you don't have to apply every one of these, but pick those that apply to you.
Yeah.
But think about the touch, the feel, the smell, like, figure it out when these opportunities arise, how do I get to stand out? And
Yeah.
if you're somebody who networks heavy, or maybe you're somebody that goes to a lot of conferences,
Yeah.
then you need a business card that people wanna keep just because it's so cool, they don't wanna throw it away.
Yeah. So
And whether they call you day 1 or day it doesn't matter. It's the fact that, like, I don't know, I met this guy and his business card is so awesome, I just
yeah.
kept it. That's what you want.
Absolutely. So two things on that real quick. And this is so simple to do, but it takes a little bit of different thinking, right? Is I met a guy one time and his business card was a little round coin.
Mhm.
And he's like, I just want people to carry it around in their pocket. And I thought, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I kept it for many, many months, right? And then for years, my business card has been longer than most because I made my business card to be a bookmark. I'm a publisher. And everybody's like, oh, that looks like a bookmark. Oh, that's very cute. But it was a connecting point for them with what I do. And they kept it. It was different. And hopefully they use it in their books. But it's little thinking like that that Mike and his team can help you do to go, oh, I mean, you go to Mike's website and you see, the dog and all that, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Because when you understand what the name of their, cyber dogs, and they got this bulldog thing, and it's like, oh, well, that's kind of fun. And then you dive in and you start to like him. And
Mhm.
we all talk about no like and trust. Well, you can do all of that through proper branding. Fair? All right?
It's completely fair, but it's also the challenge to not overthink it. Like,
Yep.
you're just for example, I've gone to a lot of different networking events and different things, and I would say of the male kind of audience in that room, 99% of them are wearing a North Face vest, khakis, and brown shoes, and like everybody's business casual. I get
Yep.
it. I see how you got there. Got it. I go into those environments or those opportunities just as I am.
That's great.
I'm wearing my worn out jeans, my Air Jordans, and my hat and a sweatshirt. And I get comments all the time about, hey, way to dress up for this thing. Or somebody will say, like, man, you stand out like a sore thumb. And every time they say it, I'm like, bingo, it's working. Because
Right.
I came authentic. I came as I am. I came as
Yeah.
I tried to represent my brand and how I want people to perceive it,
Yeah.
not as this version of what I think the industry or what I think my peers or competitors want me to be, because that's
Absolutely.
white noise.
That's
That's the
right.
whole point is you want to be you. And again, pick and choose those battles as it applies to you and your business, but to not overthink it and to take those little opportunities to kind of get the win, like you said, that coin?
Yep.
Exactly. Like,
100%.
that's genius. How many people walk around with those in their pocket all day long? And again, they might not do business with that guy right away,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
eventually it's going to come back around and you're going to end up working with that person or he's going to pass that along to somebody else. But regardless, you're in this guy's pocket 24/7.
That's right. No, it's very good. One more thing, and then we'll start wrapping this thing up. But going back to showing up authentically, I talk to business owners a lot about that. Just be yourself. And you talk about being in your brand, and people resonate with that when you're just genuine. You're not posing. And so many people say, "Well, that's not professional. You can't do that." And I say, "Have you ever heard of Steve Jobs? I mean, the dude built a $1 billion organization in jeans and a black T-shirt. He just didn't care at one level. He's like, this is who I am. This is, and people resonated with it. It was like a breath of fresh air, right? And so, yeah, whether you're going to these networking events in jeans, t-shirts, hats, or whether you're wearing your khakis, it needs to be you. And I think that's so important because you need to show up. One of my marketing strategies and philosophies is people buy you more than what you do, and they connect with you. And a lot of times when you show up on those networking events, they may comment like that, but deep down they're like, I wish I could do that. they don't they haven't owned themselves to just be there and go, this is who I am, and let's have a relationship. And that's really where it all starts. And that probably puts a big bow around branding because it does communicate that relationship of who I am, how I serve, how I'm going to show up, how I'm going to take care of you, and why I'm different from everybody else
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing to be different. That's the thing is
at all.
like, I think from a comfortable standpoint, people think if I step into the flow of things, it increases my chances to succeed because clearly it's working for other people. And it's like, perhaps, but only at a certain level or at a ceiling height that is kind of controlled by that flow. You want to be a disruptor in a way that works for you. So
Right.
like, real quick, like, I've had situations with clients where they hop on the call and they say, all right, what do you got for me? And what they're really looking for is they're looking for me to sell them because that's the experience that they're used to.
Yeah.
And my response is always nothing. I'm
Nothing.
not selling you. I don't have any reason to sell you. Now
Right.
we can collaborate and proactively solve some problems,
Yeah.
but that's a different conversation as far as me selling you or convincing you to do things yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. It's gonna be a really short call. I
Yep.
love that. All right. So how do our listeners take that next step to find out more about you, your company, and how you might be able to help them create an extraordinary brand that's going to really help them grow their business for years to come, really? What's their next step?
I think you gotta just look in the mirror and ask yourself if you really love your brand and whether or not it serves your business in the way that you think it should. And
Mm-hmm.
if the answer is no, which sorry, but for most people it probably is. If the answer is no, I think we need to have a conversation and talk about what that looks like to get it to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because if what you're working with doesn't match your vision, it's going to be a clumsy ride to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. That's a great question. Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, do I love my brand? Does it resonate? What's it do inside of me? Am I excited about it? And am I willing to go tell other people? And if your answer is no, or it could be better, I want you to reach out to Mike. And where would they go? What's your website? What's the best place for them to get you?
They can find me at cyberdogsmarketing.com, and that's CYBERDOGZ marketing.com. And then all our social media links are on the website. And if they fill out the contact form and whatnot, I will be reaching out to them. But yeah, they can find everything they need right there.
Cyber Dogs Marketing. That in and of itself puts an image in your mind going, oh, this is interesting. Go check them out. If nothing else, just look at their branding, and you'll spend a few minutes with them, and you'll get a feel for who they are, how they operate, and how they can help you create a brand that is extraordinary, separate you from everybody else, but resonate with who you are as a person, as a company, and it will make a difference in your revenue and your business growth. Mike Brevik, man, thank you for being here. What a fun conversation. I appreciate what you do. Appreciate you showing up here today.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.